Welcome back to On Deck Circle Podcast, brought to you by the Fantasy Six Pack. I am your Under Snow host, Nick Z, over here with my good friend Jason, and a very, very, very special guest, Mr. Bob Osgood. Bob, how are you today?
I'm doing great, Nick. Feeling the same way as you are, but I have like my number one pet peeve, especially on work calls, is that I don't just randomly talk about the weather. So
Okay.
I'm not going to do that here today either, because I'm
Okay.
a man of my word.
I love that. Jason, how are you in the non-snowy Chicago?
I'm good. And I'm actually on board with Bob's sentiment there. It's the worst thing that could ever happen. So
Yeah.
talk about weather.
All right. So I should scrap the weather cold open question of the week is what you're saying.
Yeah.
All right. Well, back to my favorite part of the show, the cold open question of the week. My question is this. So the three of us are indeed married, not to each other, but to someone else, correct?
Correct.
Yes, I think that's all accurate.
Great. I want to know if there's a baked good that your significant other makes, or it could be like a dinner or like a specialty food that you get excited about. All right? 3, 2, 1, play the music. Alrighty, let's make this quick. Mr. Bob, what do we got?
This isn't going to be my best cold open. I feel like in the past we've had some good wrestling ones and all of that.
Usually wrestling, but then those usually run a little long.
It's true. All right, so let's be quick. I'm not a big dessert guy, which I know is crazy. Like, I can't remember ever in my life the waiter coming over or waitress and you want to see the dessert menu, and the answer is no for me 95% of the time.
Wow.
So I would just say, when my kids and my wife are making chocolate chip cookies because they're bored during, February break, I'll grab a couple on the way by. I'm not going to, ignore a plate full of chocolate chip cookies, but that's all I would say. I'm not a big dessert guy, so
okay,
we'll keep it quick.
That's a bad take, Bob. All right, yeah. Jason.
No, great take by Bob. I hate dessert at restaurants. It's like it's almost as much as your entree, and it's half the size. It's over sugared. I don't want any of that shit. But anyways, at home here, we're a very gluten adversive house here, so not a ton of baked goods in this household. But my wife will make like maybe like a 3 or 4 ingredient like banana, oats, and egg cookie type thing, and it's delicious. But yeah,
love that. I'm gonna complain about my wife for the first couple seconds here.
Nice.
She's a great baker, loves to bake. However, she's a little too creative. So like if she's like, I'm making cookies, they're not those chocolate chip cookies, Bob. They're like mandarin orange cookies. And I'm like, just make the chocolate chip.
Yeah,
so
watching a lot of that Food Network, those baking challenges they have, right?
So when they are indeed chocolate chip cookies with like a sprinkle of like sea salt, I'm all in. Great. That's 4 minutes. Ready, set, baseball now.
Well, yeah, I mean, you kind of talked about it earlier. We got Bob here, our most senior guest on the On Deck Circle podcast. Back for at least, I think, maybe third, possibly fourth time here. Always a pleasure having Bob on the episodes. We're gonna, we just finished up our prospect talk. I think it's time we jump around the league here and dig deeper into some of the Dynasty breakouts. And I think this week we're going to focus on the AL and NL East, which obviously it gives us 6 or 8 teams to talk about. So I think we kind of go around the horn here, kind of we've done before, where each person talks about a player, and we'll kick it off here with Bob and see what you got here for our first guy here. Is I think you can correct me before, it's Mikey Romero.
Mikey Romero, that's right, of the Boston Red Sox. Now, I won't spend too much time today talking about the Boston Red Sox, I promise, but I couldn't come on here and not pick one of these if we were doing the AL East and the NL East. And, I think with Mikey Romero, there's been over the last several years, you think about the Red Sox farm system, there is Marcelo Meyer that we talked about a lot. There's Christian Campbell, especially going into last season, was maybe the trendiest prospect to talk about. There's Roman Anthony, who came up last June, June, and then there was Kyle Teal, who was traded to Chicago. And then there's Franklin Arias, who we now see as the next kind of big prospect in the middle infield. Mikey Romero is kind of an afterthought, and I don't know that he should be. And I think we really are chasing upside when it comes to, whether that's Dynasty or redraft or fab leagues or the next guy that comes up and you spend 20% of your fab on, something like that. That's kind of not where Mikey Romero is. There's probably a better chance of the rest of the people that I'm going to mention today that are under that umbrella. But with Romero, he was the first round pick in 2022. He was the 24th overall pick from Boston out of high school. He was picked ahead of Roman Anthony, who was actually a second round pick that season. So he's a little bit forgotten about. But just because he wasn't on a meteoric rise to the top like some of the other guys we mentioned, doesn't mean that he's a bust. And I think that he's made some improvements every year. 2023 wasn't great. He hit 214 in just 34 games, dealt with some injuries that year. But since that, you got to remember that this guy was 20 and 21 the 2 years after that. And in 2024, he started to tap into some power across multiple levels. He had 16 home runs, over 800 OPS, 271 average. His strikeout rate bumped up a little bit to 23%. And then last season, kind of made some improvements as he got up to AA. He had a 254 average, continued, not quite the same power, not quite the same average as he had at high A the year before that, but he continued to do what he needed to do to get past each level and spent about a month or so at AAA to end last year. So he's still 21. He's going to be entering his 22-year-old season this year. And again, it's not numbers that jump off the page. You've got a 16 and a 17 home run season in the last 2 years. And I think that, the K percentage has crept up a little bit. That's where he needs to make improvements a little bit. He needs to get some more game reps. He needs to make some better swing decisions. His hit tool's about a 40 right now. That's probably not an everyday player, but he should be a major leaguer. He should be somebody that, if he ends up in a trade, could be a starter on a second division team. I still just don't think Mikey Romero should be the afterthought in this system. And when I look at Baseball America had him about 18th, I think, going into the season. Our local guys at Sox Prospects, which is a great website if you're ever trying to research Red Sox minor leaguers, they do such a great job and have comprehensive write-ups of each of these guys. They have him creeping up a little bit higher. I think there was about 12 or 13 entering the season, which I think is more fair. And, again, Arias is the big name, number 2 on a lot of these lists. But I think that Romero will probably be up before he is, and it could even be this season at some point.
Love that. Nick is a fellow Boston resident fan here on the Indexer Go. Do you have anything to add about that? I think Bob did a great job of.
Yeah, great job, Bob. One thing is you can't be a successful athlete with the name Mikey. He's going to have to be Mike soon, or like Michael.
Or Michael.
Yeah.
It's like Johnny. You can't be like a Johnny Manziel and be it's Joe Montana. It's not Joey Montana.
Yeah.
Right.
But I was actually on Sox Prospects as you were talking about it. And I was pleasantly surprised to see that in less games, he hit more home runs in AAA. So he hit 9 in AAA in 45 games, while he hit 8 in 66 in AA. And one of those I actually saw live. That's just a fun fact.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, just to kind of echo what you said, he's not going to, if he's the Red Sox starting second baseman on opening day, a lot of things have gone wrong. I think if his highest ceiling for the Red Sox as a Red Sox fan is a utility guy, which is fine. You need utility guys. And like his value in a daily league for fantasy wise is exponentially higher than a weekly league, just because he's going to be that plug and play guy. And if he gets hot, he could get a couple starts in a row, but like in general, he should be playing every couple days, not every single day.
Yeah, maybe he'll be in that. We saw Nick Sogard and Nate Eaton playing those roles a little bit last year.
Yeah.
And again, if he gets traded like Nick York got traded, he could be somebody that gets some playing time. You know, I just immediately think of the Pittsburgh Pirates as the easiest example.
Yep.
But they're making some strides this year, so I'll leave them out of it.
Yeah. Jason, do you have anything on Mikey Romero?
No. Only thing I do is I got to agree with you, Nick. You got to drop the EY at the Y. Once you get to be about 10 years old, you got to drop that.
10.
Like it's like
I dropped Bobby around that time, so I hear you.
Yeah, Bob went from Bobby to Bob. I'm sure maybe even before 10. Who knows? I mean, if he was smart, he did that. So yeah. Mikey's kind of crazy at 22 years old, 24 years old. That's crazy. Just going through life.
You can't have
it. The Life cereal. Hey, Mikey, he likes it, or whatever that shit was.
That's right.
All right, no, I can't even pretend to add anything on to Mikey Romero to you two guys just talked. The Boston love that you guys have, so I can't even compete. So we'll just go on the next guy here. First guy here is Jacob Melton.
Jacob Melton, interesting guy to really talk about because this is going to be something I have totally said before. If the Rays trade for you, I'm interested in you. And that's kind of the story here. Amazing numbers in AAA last year when he was in the Astro system. He slashed 286 with a 389 OBP, plus speed, plus power. All he really needs here is the opportunity. I think this spring really kind of could be a big spring for him, mostly because when he got called up last year, he was not very good for the Astros. He hit 157, which again, you're a young player, but also he's not like a young player. He is like over that. He was 24 when he debuted. So like, it's not the big excuse of like, if Roman Anthony struggled, he didn't. But if he did, it's like, he's only 20. But definitely interested in Melton. That trade was weird in general, just like all those moving parts. But it's hard because I trust the Astros. So then I'm kind of like, well, why'd they trade him? But I trust the Rays more than I trust the Astros. So yeah, he's definitely someone I'm looking at to buy in dynasty leagues. In redrafts, I'd probably draft him late if he's there, if it's depending on where you're at. I think he's a good best ball target at the end of drafts too, just because that power and speed is there and it would be pretty cheap.
That trade, everybody that moved improved their fantasy value.
Yeah.
Which doesn't make any sense, but it does. Because like Mike Burrows going to Houston as a pitcher, like, you get more wins and get him out of Pittsburgh. And, Brandon Lau is like, sure, they're like last year he was in the minor league park, but he's going to get everyday appearances with Pittsburgh, whereas he'd get platooned occasionally in Tampa. Mangum, like, same thing. You have to think there's a reason that they're trading for him, that he's going to get some at-bats, and Melton too. Like you said, it's the Rays. There's going to be a reason for it. And I wouldn't hate on that was a very limited sample size. He had 70 at-bats in Houston.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, and still sold 7 bags with an on base of 280 like 234 on base and stole 7 bags at the major league level. And I think a lot of it was he was probably just pressing. The walk rate went down and the strikeout rate went up. So I think he probably was looking to prove something at the end of the season last year and maybe kind of bit off more than he could chew. But still, on the base path, still showed that he can have some fantasy value for sure. Anything else you need to add about Melton there, Nick, or are we on the next guy?
We are on to the next one.
All right. Well, that was fun talking about some prospects. Now let's get into some of these. I got a major league guy we can talk about here. Something new we've done here on the on-deck circle here in 2026 is a major league player. Although we may have had like one random guy before in the prospects that were like, I think we talked about a pitcher that maybe made a debut. But my guy's Drake Baldwin, the NL Rookie of the Year last year. Actually made his debut, made the opening day roster with Atlanta last year in 2025. Played in 124 games, /274, 341, 469. He had hit 19 home runs, drove in 80 runs. Led all the National League rookies in RBIs, batting average, OPS of 810, and slugging of 469. And he ranked second in home runs and total bases. So, I mean, this is a guy that people would kind of assume, making that opening day roster would have a, very decent season, at least in the Atlanta offense. But I think he kind of exceeded those expectations. Obviously winning the Rookie of the Year, obviously kind of proved that. But I really like what I saw out of Baldwin. I think, he basically had a 3+ WAR last year. I know WAR is not a fantasy, stat we kind of track here, but it's also kind of an outlier thing that kind of tells you how the player, performed. WRC plus of 125, so, obviously performing at a above average level. And the biggest thing with him, especially from like a catcher, the strikeout rate was only 15%, and really proved that he could, hold his own at the plate as a rookie. So, I think it was really impressive statistically. And as far as fantasy breakout goes, that the breakout already kind of happened in his rookie year. But I think from a dynasty aspect, like he's probably at this point a top 5 catcher. I think almost like an ascent of how what Hunter Goodman did last year, right? He had a decent rookie season in 24, and in 25 really popped off with the power. I think we can kind of see Drake Baldwin possibly taking that next step with the power in 2026, and I think he's due for even more. Again, the breakout has already happened, so to call him a breakout is blasphemy. But I think the arrow is still pointing upwards for Baldwin going forward.
I mean, I thought he should have won Rookie of the Year a year ago. I know that because Cade Horton, did he get it or did Baldwin get it?
No, Baldwin got it, but
there was Baldwin that got it. It was very close with Horton, right?
Yep.
Yeah, sorry, I had it reversed, and I thought that it was going to be the other way around, and ended up going to Baldwin. So yeah, I guess you could argue that the breakout has happened, but he's only played 124 games in his career, so I think it's fair to kind of make that proclamation and say that he's going to go into the top 5. Like, I think he could be going in William Contreras range in drafts next year, and he has a really similar profile, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, Contreras hit 260 with 17 and 76 RBI a year ago. Now, he was hurt. I think it was a hand injury, which probably sapped some of the power. But even if you look at the year before, which was Contreras' breakout, he hit 281 with 23 homers, 92 RBIs. I wouldn't be shocked if Baldwin did that, considering he had 80 RBI in 124 games a year ago. And, even that 124 is high because a lot of times he would sit at the beginning of the games as a left-handed hitter because they had Sean Murphy there. And then he would come in, when it would go the other direction, when they would bring in a righty. And I quickly realized, having Baldwin on a lot of teams, that when they were facing lefties, I would just play him anyways because he'd come off the bench and get a hit most games anyways. He was that good. Like you said, 15% strikeout rate from a catcher and hitting 274 in your rookie year. Like, sky's the limit with this guy. And I've taken him on a couple of teams in some of my early drafts already. I think it's a great price in redraft, 7th round a lot of times in 15-team leagues. Sign me up for that. Yeah,
I know when you talk about redraft, his ADP is probably like the 7th to 10th catcher taken off the board. So, he's definitely going to return, I think, top 5 catcher value this year. So he's definitely getting a little bit of value at the catcher position, especially in a 2-catcher league. It's a no-brainer to take him top, probably 75 overall.
Yeah, he's great, man. I think we could see, maybe not this season, but like he has 30 home run pop on out of that bat. I'm interested to see how this year goes, just because a lot of times you see that sophomore slump type thing, especially in catchers, because he is the starting catcher going into this year. So you don't know if he's like working more worried about working with the pitchers than he is at actually hitting. But all in on Baldwin. Honestly, I would pick him over Contreras now, just out of
that's spicy.
You come here on the On Deck Circle podcast for the hot takes,
and
go. definitely would pick him over him in Dynasty. Like if someone, I'm a Contreras owner in multiple places. If someone offered me Baldwin for Contreras straight up, I would take it 10 times out of 10. Mostly because, did you say definitely?
I said love it from the Dynasty perspective. I was surprised you were there already in redraft. That's what I thought was spicy there.
I'm there. I'm going to be looking to draft Baldwin in all of my redrafts whenever those drafts happen. But he also, what surprised me the most was he was very good against breaking balls, which, again, for me as a non-MLB player, I'm like, if you can hit a breaking ball, you're good to me. And he did good with that. So he hit over 270 on breaking pitches, which is great. So, yeah, I'm excited to see what Baldwin does this upcoming season.
Yeah, right now, Roster Resource has him batting second in that lineup in between Acuna and Olsen. So not only with the RBIs, the runs will be there as well. It's a protection from Matt Olsen. So, I'll take that all day from your catcher position in redraft purposes and dynasty purposes for that matter. All right, so I'm going over to our next guy here, and it's going to be Bob's next guy, and it's going to be Elmer Rodriguez.
Yeah, so, you get the rare Red Sox-Yankees trade that happens a year ago. And, Rodriguez had decent stats the season before that in 2024 with Boston. But he's traded for Carlos Narvaez, and I think we kind of in Boston thought might have been a potential steal of a trade, especially when we saw that Narvaez wasn't just their backup catcher in 2025. He quickly, by May, became their starter and was far and away their best catcher and, at times one of their better hitters throughout the season. Then you realize as you get to August and September that Cruz has made it from A-ball all the way up to AAA. And Cruz, I think it's Rodriguez Cruz hyphenated. So he had a 2.58 ERA across 3 levels in 2025. He had a 226 at high A, a 264 at double A. It was just one start that he had at AAA at the end. 4 runs and 5 innings in that one start. But he threw a lot of innings. He got up to 150 innings this season, which is a really good number for a 21-year-old. Like, you think that you want to be built up to 150 by the time maybe your first season in the majors. He's already there. The strikeout numbers are phenomenal. Well, they're very good, I should say, for the minor leagues. But what he improved on is his command. And in 2024, he was walking 4.3 per 9. In 2025, that was down to 3.4 per 9, almost, a full tick below what he had the year before that. And he has just a great arsenal. He's got upper 90s, both a 4-seam and a sinker, but he also throws a cutter as the third fastball option. And then he has sweeper, splitter, changeup. You add all of that up. He's got 6 pitches, and that curveball that he has is in like the mid 70s, or, at least it was on some of the scouting reports previously. So, he can change speeds pretty significantly, 6-pitch mix, and just seeing like him keep those strikeout numbers consistent while making such improvement from high A to AAA with his walk rate, continue to be around that 29 to 30% K rate, but getting the walk rate down a year ago to 9% across all levels, 1.07 whip, throws strikes, deep arsenal, and it wouldn't shock me if Rodriguez Cruz ended up breaking camp with the team. If there was, if Rodon is still on the IL and he just comes out and he's one of the better pitchers in their staff, wouldn't shock me. I think it's probably more likely that he's up in like May or June, but I think he's going to be a big piece in this Yankees rotation this year. And, just the gradings on several of those pitches up on Baseball America, all between 50 and 60, but a 60 grade fastball that he throws about 98. It just is a really impressive profile to me.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think the biggest thing you said is that he's ready. 150 innings as a 21-year-old. Think about, his peers, right? College arms at that age, 21, are, they're lucky to get 50 to 60, 70 innings. He's already at 150. And not only that, but he had a 30% K rate a 190 average against, basically a 1 whip. I think you nailed it on the head. He'll definitely be making his appearance this year with the big league for sure. He's ready. He's at 100. He's proven. Other than a little bit of maybe not proving at AAA, I mean, but if you're still dominating at that age against the other your advanced competition at AA, I think he's not much left to prove except to get to the majors.
Yeah, and just 22 years old, and I mentioned earlier the 2021 Red Sox draft, how it was Romero in the first, Anthony in the second, and Elmer Rodriguez was in the 4th round in that 2021 draft. So interesting, just seeing how much came out of that for them.
Heim is a genius.
Oh yeah, let's.
Yeah,
we
man.
need an hour at the end of the show if we want to talk about that.
I had no idea that this was the guy they traded Narvaez for until like a week ago when I saw a tweet that was like, no one talks about that we traded this guy for Carlos Narvaez. And I was like, wait, this is the guy, Elmer?
Right.
Like, I knew the player, but I just thought it was like a Yankee prospect.
It's going to be really fun if both of them end up being significant pieces in that rivalry.
Yeah, Narvaez is. I love him, man. It's so nice just to have like a cool catcher.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would love a Sunday night baseball, little Elmer versus Narvaez, just to see something happen.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm out because he's Yankee. But like, I get it.
It's fair.
Yeah, Bob, one thing you need to know about this podcast is Yankees are frowned upon by Nick. Anytime we need to talk about a Yankees prospect or something like that, I usually just take on that burden from Nick. It's one of those things, near and dear to his heart that he doesn't talk about Yankees and Yankees prospects.
I have no issue with that. So
you're preaching to the choir, Jason.
But when it comes to making money in fantasy baseball, it's above all else for me. So
yeah, that's fair.
Exactly. I was jumping over here to your next guy, Nick, and that's going to be Arjun Nimmala.
Is that how you say it? Yeah.
I don't know. We'll look in the comments next week.
I guess we'll find out.
Yeah.
So this is an interesting one for me because at first I was looking at this saying, is this someone I'm going to avoid or is this someone I'm actively trying to buy? And I'm taking the buy/breakout here. 20th overall pick in 2023. He was kind of one of those trendy names in first-year player drafts. It was kind of like, he's got the tools. Let's see if he can like develop them. And at the beginning of last season, he did. He was doing great. He slashed 289 with an on-base at 372 with an OPS of 528. But then he kind of just cratered. And when I say cratered, I mean he hit 182 with an on-base of 269 with an OPS of 289, which is crazy. I do understand that the math makes that not that crazy, but it is indeed crazy. So I think this is a very good buy opportunity for him because, again, the tools are there. Unsure if he can really tap into the power that we were once hoping, but not every player is going to be a league winner, and this is definitely not a person for this season. But at only 20 years old still, I think he is someone to try and target because I think the owner will probably be not tired of them, but would be giving up trying to just like get a sunk cost type thing. Unsure if you guys have any input on Nimmala.
Not much. I do know, like you said, you kind of hit on it earlier. I remember he was the first-year player draft darling in the 2023 class. He was drafted in the first round, and as a high school, I think a lot of people had kind of given him some helium going into the first-year player draft. It just hasn't quite lived up to that helium. Not saying that he can't, right? He's still super young, and I'm here to see where he goes.
I've got him in Skull Wars, Nick.
Yes, I know. You drafted him. Or maybe the guy before you drafted him.
That's correct. And I've just been holding him because I feel like better days are ahead. But
yeah, I mean, you just heard that on a podcast.
On a very significant podcast. I just heard that on.
I'll send you an offer later.
Yeah. We've gotten some trades done.
Oh yeah, we always do well. Everyone
Yeah.
gives me shit for being a dick. But you know what? No, I'm easy to deal with if you're nice to me.
The thing is, you make 100 trades a year. So
Yeah.
like a few of those are gonna one way or another look like a ripoff. I'm sure you have some that you wish you could have back.
Yeah.
But we've made some generally fair trades over the years.
I think so.
Yeah.
And I won a championship. I'm good.
Yes. And you beat me by what? A couple
Carlos Narvaez
and-
home run on Sunday Night Baseball.
It all comes full circle. Yeah. OPS, the 4th percentage point. Sent you to the finals and you won the championship.
Thank you very much.
I digress.
Right. Don't forget it. Jason, you're up, pal.
Yeah, no worries, man. I'm gonna agree with Bob here. Nick loves to wheel and deal in the dynasty aspect of the fantasy game. So to hear that he was making 100 trades in another league doesn't shock me one bit, and I love every minute of it.
No, you get the message usually around 9 o'clock in the group chat. Let's deal.
Yeah.
Who knows what Nick's up to at that time?
Usually says, just pop the edible.
Or hey guys, I got snowed in. Let's make a trade.
Yeah.
That's Nick's name of the game right there. Love that.
One and the same.
Yeah. All right, my guy next I'm talking about here is Travis Sykora, national 3rd round pick in 2023, high schooler. Really nice projectable frame for a pitcher, 6'6", 232, right-hander. Kind of just has that workhorse frame. Has a really nice pitch arsenal. You know, the fastball is like mid to upper 90s, nice sharp slider. The changeup gets a nice swing and miss on the changeup. Right now, the biggest question mark with Sykora is obviously the injury risk. He's not really been healthy the last 2 seasons. But in 2024, he did have a 2.33 ERA and 129 strikeouts in only 85 innings. And then in 2025, before getting ultimately injured again, he had a 121 ERA and a 44% strikeout rate over 30 innings at high A. Did get up to double A in 2025, and then ultimately he needed to get Tommy John surgery in the middle of last year, which, basically now going to put him out of all, if not mostly all, to this 2026 season. So you're not looking at any sort of bounce back in the minor league level till 2027. But I think, it's a good buy low opportunity. I think he's got a really nice high upside, probably like a number 2 or 3 at the big league level if he can stay healthy. And that's obviously going to be the biggest concern with Sykora is the health. But he's got a really nice pitch arsenal, good arm strength, good quality to be a nice high impact starter at the next level. And I just really like to see him stay healthy for a full year because I think he has the ability. Not only that, but I also one other, I guess, red flag would be the Nationals. I feel like we've seen a lot of these high touted prospects for pitching, go from the Washington go and then just don't kind of just fizzle out. I think we, talked about a couple guys in the last episode, our pitching episode, that I wasn't too keen on. But I think Sykora, if he can stay healthy in the long run, is a nice dynasty aspect of buy low a piece you could kind of target for down the road if you have a little bit more deeper prospect, farm system in your league.
I've never seen strikeout rates like this in my life. So if you can carry that over to the upper levels,
right?
More than 1.5 strikeouts an inning.
Yeah.
More than half of the outs are strikeouts. That's,
decent.
That's a Hall of Famer, I think, if it continues. So
pencil him in.
We'll see. I don't know. High A, maybe we can't take it too seriously.
I was gonna say it is low. It is low minors, but
still jumps off the page.
Yeah, it's definitely the time to buy because you're not at that point where the excitement of him coming back is there. It's still kind of like we still got all of this year. But he threw for the first time this past week, so that's cool. I'm interested to see if, I guess, just like any type of development. I mean, I'm not gonna look up this guy in a month, being like, is he throwing more or this?
Right.
But I would definitely put out some feelers just to see where the guy's at. Even if it's like trading, like if you're a good team and you trade like a first-year player draft first round pick for him, that's kind of worth it because it's it's the same timeline of the person you'd actually pick. So definitely interested to see where he ends up, especially with that strikeout rate of 1.1.5.
Yeah,
it's a good point about like, a guy that has 2 years to get to the level that he's going to be at, or returning from already having surgery. And it's just like an assumption that I make whenever I'm drafting a pitcher in a first-year player draft, especially if he throws hard, is that he's going to get Tommy John, and he's probably going to need it before he even gets to the major leagues, which is a depressing thing to. Yeah, do you want it to happen? I don't know, but you want to get it out of the way early rather than the hype of, Yuri Perez or Andrew Painter or something like that, where they're on the cusp or they've just made their debut, and then it happens then. It's just a very depressing aspect of the game, and I understand why people just take hitters in FYPDs and trade for the pitchers elsewhere that they know, will get the innings. So it's a really tough area to navigate.
Yep. Absolutely. Well, we're going to go on to your next guy, Bob, and I love that you included this guy because we spent a good amount of time, talking about him last week, and I want to hear your perception on Robby Snelling.
Yeah. So sorry to double up on that.
No, not at all. I love it.
I'm bringing it up because there is no, and I'm going to reference redraft again, but there is no pitcher that I have in redraft leagues with more shares of than Robby Snelling. And, we're talking dynasty. We're talking about somebody that hasn't even made his debut yet in the major leagues. And yet I feel pretty confident that he's going to throw a lot of innings for the Marlins this year. And he's going really late in redrafts. I think you can take him in the reserves, especially in 15-team leagues. I wouldn't hate to throw a dart right now in a 12-team league as well, especially if you have, a minor spot that you can use, or it's a fab league. It's tougher in draft and hold type leagues when you don't know when they're going to come up. But he could come out in spring training and look as good as any arm that Miami has probably after Yuri Perez. I think the move from San Diego to Miami, they made some tweaks with his mechanics after his command was a little bit erratic in 2024. And much like I was talking with Rodriguez Cruz, I mean, the walks went way down a year ago when he went to Miami. It was a 9% rate in 2024. Some of that was with San Diego. Second half of the year, once he went to Miami, the walk rate improved, and then he continued that a year ago. 7% walk rate, over 30% strikeout rate across multiple levels of the minor leagues. It can touch 99, sits 94, 95, and has a couple other plus pitches with his curveball. Close to that, he also has a slider and a changeup. So same kind of thing, just like a good 4-pitch arsenal, throws hard. And I don't know if you guys talked about this last week, but do you know who Miami signed that is blocking Robby Snelling from making the opening day rotation without looking at roster resource?
No.
Chris Paddock.
Oh, God.
No, Chris Paddock shouldn't keep any of us out of a rotation, never mind Robby Snelling. And that's when he started dropping in drafts. I was doing some slow drafts in January, taking him in like the low 300s. And then I just got him with the 400 pick in one of my draft and hold leagues last week because they signed Chris Paddock. I don't think that's a good reason. I think Paddock is all but washed up and is just there to, be an innings eater, and he shouldn't block any of their developing pitchers, whether that's him or White. I think that Snelling, by all scouting reports, was one of the 5 best pitchers in the minor leagues last year. And he could get an opening day spot, but I don't think it'll be much longer after that.
Yeah. I gushed endlessly amounts on Snelling last week, but I will say from a redraft perspective, his NFBC ADP right now is 347. He's going behind guys like Painter, Seth Lugo, Jose Soriano. I can continue this list of just guys that I would not take over Robby Snelling. Even if he doesn't make the opening day roster, you talked about Paddock, right? I mean, he's basically one more injury away from missing the rest of the season. We've seen him, ride the IL for the last many of his career, actually, not just the last couple seasons. But I think, Snelling is going to make an impact at the fantasy level in 2026 for sure.
Yeah, I mean, Chris Paddock threw 158 innings last year, and he had a 16.7% K rate. So I think it's a combination, 5.35 ERA. I think it's a combination. As you said, he's had injuries, but he's pretty ineffective as well. And that experiment, I don't think will last very long.
Bob, do you know who he was traded for?
No, I knew it was the Padres, but
Tanner
they make
Scott.
more. I was going to say they make more trades than you do in Dynasty. Tanner Scott, wow.
Graham Pauley, Adam Mazur, and Robby Snelling for Tanner Scott.
Jeez. Yeah, that one didn't work out. And you wonder if the Mason Miller trade won't work out similarly with what the return was there.
But Tanner Scott was still older, even when I guess no. He's 31 now. He's younger than me. I guess that's fine. But yeah, we talked last week about Snelling. He's good. I think I called him the safest pitching prospect. If there are any safe pitching prospects, he is my number one safe pitching prospect.
There you go.
Our top 10 from last week.
Our top 10.
Yeah. Speaking of which, is Nick the AJ Preller of your Dynasty League that you were speaking of?
Except I actually win.
Yeah, I don't think it's reckless.
Yeah, I'm not reckless. I'm just
there's a couple people
So I won, and I think I turned over 65% of my team just because someone dared me to.
Okay.
The most fun trade we've made.
Yeah.
You sent me Juan Soto, and it is an OBP aspect. And I sent back Fernando Tatis and Ryan Pepio halfway through last season. So that
was two cloud candies, I believe.
I was gonna say that is an AJ Preller type of deal right there.
Yeah. So Soto, when you're talking top 10 in dynasty rankings, I don't know, let's say I had Soto 4th and Tatis 6th, to bridge that gap, you got to give a strong starting pitcher for that. And I was willing to send Pepio back as a second piece. And yeah, I mean, we were as close as it gets in the semifinals, so it worked out for both of us.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Two cloud candies in, and Nick's wheeling and dealing.
Candy deal.
Speaking of wheeling and dealing, we're going to talk about Nick's next guy. Someone was just traded this offseason. Owen Caissie.
Owen Caissie. Here we go. This is I can't believe this is something I'm going to say out loud in the year 2026. I'm betting on the Marlins, not actually with money, but on the way that they develop these kind of forgotten outfielders, with use cases of Kyle Stowers, and Jacob Marcy. And I think we might see that with Owen Caissie. I don't know if it's going to be to that extent, but we saw, Jason, Caissie was a big guy. He was a top prospect for you guys. And it just seems like he just needed the opportunity, and Miami is where people go for opportunities, I guess, including Chris Paddock. But yeah, I really see him and Stowers. Is it Stowers or Stowers?
Stowers.
Okay. Like Star Wars, but Stowers.
You nailed it.
I think him and Stowers are perfect comps for each other. And I think that's kind of going to be the best case scenario. He does have a lot of swing and miss that does kind of worry me. Not great against lefties, but you know what? The price this offseason, is lower than it was last offseason, and honestly, not much has changed. So I'm all in on him, whether it's late in redraft, trading for him in Dynasty, just kind of a see where you're at. He was the headliner, I guess, of the Cabrera trade, but even that still isn't usually you can kind of see an uptick after a trade's made for someone. I'm going to go trade for this guy because someone wanted him in real baseball. But yes, I think Stowers and Marcy are perfect examples of what Caissie could be.
Yeah, I mean, the trade that's happened this offseason with the Cubs was, I think, a win for both teams. I think, Owen Caissie has been one of not just our best last year, been in the last couple of years. He's had a really nice output, just kind of stuck behind a log jam in the outfield of the Cubs organization. And, shout out to Jed Hoyer for making that deal and, flip, because the Cubs are desperate for pitching. We've known that for the last year or two now. And I think getting a guy like Cabrera was a nice win for them. And yeah, I mean, we probably could have used him in right field, right? We don't really have a full, true defensive right fielder, but I think Sayek will move over there nicely. I just worry, I don't want to derail this onto some Cubs.
No, go.
Cubs, but I just worry about Sayek's offensive production when he goes back to the outfield. So that's all I got to say about that. But I think going back to Owen Caissie, I think this is a huge win for both Miami and Caissie. He's going to get the opportunity that he deserves. I think he's capable of making a very nice fantasy production in Miami as far as, everything. The power little kind of worries me about that park. It's not the greatest of power parks there in Miami. But other than that, I think this is a huge win for Caissie. I think we can see a nice breakout in 2026 for him.
I like it.
All right. Jump on over here to, speaking of, we brought up guys that, keep the IE or the Y at the end of their name at 25 years old. We're going to talk about my next guy here. That's Johnny King. Maybe we can just maybe we should start going by John or Jonathan from now on, because Johnny's getting
Jonathan King is a strong name.
That's what I'm saying. We got to get rid of this Johnny. I mean, this is like, what are we, 10?
This is turning into a well, hold on. I can't even think of the comedian's name now. That has he has the name spit. But anyways, keep going.
Yeah, no worries. King was the Blue Jays' third round pick in 2024. That's another high school arm, but left-handed pitcher, kind of that nice big frame I talked about with Sykora, 6'3", 210. So again, a nice workhorse frame for the pitchers that you look for. His first full year was actually really impressive. 61 innings at the low levels, but check out 105 batters. Finished 2025 with a 2.4 ERA. He's got a really nice pitch arsenal. The fastball sits like mid-90s. Curveball, slider, which both have above average spin rates. Got a really nice swing and miss ability. Obviously displayed by the K rates. And then the walk rates are actually not the greatest, but I feel like it's still someone that, pitcher's young enough, still trying to kind of work on his repertoire and try to figure his way around the minor leagues and how to get pit batters out. The walk rate's not something that you can, be too mad about. And I think, King's kind of arrow's kind of projecting upwards. Still really young, and I think can be poised for some nice development here in the next year or two at only 19 years old.
Let's thinking George Carlin, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Fired up about things being not real names or cowardly
ripping
names.
Dudes for having 10-year-old names.
Yeah, similar to that, which I spent looking up instead of Johnny King. So
no worries, man. That was more imperative, was to find the comedian reference on George Carlin. Love that.
I guess.
But again, I mean, just strikeout rates through the roof.
Yeah.
Again, still only at the low minor level, but still. I mean, if you're not striking out guys at the low level, then you don't really have much upside for you going forward, anyways. So
no.
Why didn't we give Robby Snelling any shit?
Yeah, it's a good question. I feel like Robby is different than Bobby.
I agree. No,
Robby
I agree. Robby
Bobby.
is better than Bobby. I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It has a little bit more of a matureness to it.
Johnny's more mature than Mikey, too.
True, yes. Yeah.
Mikey is by far the worst.
So we need a hierarchy on this.
Yeah. Wait. Where does Billy rank in all of this?
In the middle.
Yeah. Billy's kind of weird, right? Because you could be William, you could be Will, you could be Bill. Yeah. Billy's kind of a crazy one.
I think Louis legit.
Louis.
Yeah, that's a pretty mature. I can respectfully call an adult Louis.
Yeah,
I think I'm just out on Johnny and out on Mikey and Nicky. But like, who's Nicky?
Good.
Yeah, exactly. This is the content you came here for.
This is where we need the comment section. I'm looking forward to seeing some thoughts on this.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
All right, but Johnny King, I'm in.
Love it.
Great.
Going here to our next guy, Bob's guy. Again, another pitcher. Love the pitcher talk. That's what I thrive for. Is the pitching talk. Luis Perales.
So, the worst part of the Red Sox offseason was sending Luis Perales out, and it was Bennett that came back, and he's kind of closer to the major leagues probably. He's older. What's that?
I said maybe, probably.
I don't know. I wanted Luis Perales to be a September call-up when he came back from Tommy John a year ago, and they sent him to the Arizona Fall League instead, where he was throwing 101 coming off of arm surgery. So, like we said, that's already in the past for this guy. Sure, it's always in the back of your head that you have to worry about it, but somebody coming off of Tommy John throwing 101 when they were throwing close to that beforehand is probably a good sign. But like every report out of Arizona was just like that he looked as good as any pitcher there, which isn't saying much because usually it's more hitters that go to Arizona, some of the better hitters looking for reps, and the pitching is, on the downside. There's not a whole lot in terms of statistics that we can point at with Perales because he's been hurt for the last couple of years. But, in 2023, he had made some improvements at that point. And like what I will always remember is that they signed him at 16 years old back in 2019, and he was already throwing like 97, 98 on some of the backfields that people saw him. And it was just like, who the hell is that guy? Looking back. What's that?
Who is that child?
Right. It's 16 years old. He's still listed at 6'1", 160. I'm sure he's put a little bit of weight on. But in 2023, he finally started building up his innings count a little bit. He got up to 90 innings, 11.5 Ks per 9 across low A and high A. Walked a few too many hitters, and I think that's the reason that Breslow made this trade is that there's just more variance with Perales. Like he could be a number 2 starter easily if he kind of harnesses control and figures it all out, as he's still just 22. He also might end up in the bullpen because of those issues, and we're not sure whether he'll find a third pitch. It's been, the fastball has been great, the slider has been considered plus. I think it's listed as a splitter in some spots. So like, can he get the cutter, can he get a change up third pitch type of thing to work? He still has time to do that, as he's, really just been a handful of innings at Double-A so far. I think he'll pitch at Triple-A this year. I think that Washington's Taboni went over there as a general manager from Boston and immediately traded for him. There's got to be a reason for that, and I think he's just kind of a more small-bodied pitcher, and Breslow is looking for these 6'5", 6'6", Johan Oviedo, Peyton Tolley types that have big extension, which is not something that Perales has, but that doesn't mean that he can't be successful and maybe complement some of those other pitchers well. So I was disappointed in that trade. I think worst case scenario, he could be a closer. And if that's what you get out of a dynasty trade or pickup, you'll take that scenario. I see him on a lot of lists closer to like 150, top 200. And I wouldn't be surprised if he moved up this year, especially how he looked in Arizona. It's really just, can he harness that control? But, who knows? It's been a couple of years off, and he could, after what we saw in Arizona, come out in 2026 and shoot up prospect list. So I think it's a great time to buy in Dynasty for Perales.
Yeah, I'm with you. That trade was definitely odd, especially because like Bennett is exactly what you just described,
Right.
As in the extension, which is something that I really harped on last week. So I don't know if you can tell, I'm not a big like analytics guy, Bob. Like I don't fully understand like the whole. There used to be a segment on this very show where our third host, Dave, I don't know if you ever met him, but he would explain these metrics and advanced stats to me, and I would just be like, oh, like warp.
I know, Dave.
Yeah. So
30 Rock, of course.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I mean, let's be serious here.
Yes. I forgot about that.
We might need to do like a revamped 30 Rock episode with just as many former members as possible in a StreamYard.
I don't know if it'd be able to be, if anyone could really handle that. But one thing that I do want to point out that you did talk about was the Toboni of it all. As a Zaniboni, I can talk about Toboni.
Yeah.
I think that's just it. I think he took this job. He knew he was getting a job somewhere, and he said, I am getting this guy. So, and he knew he wouldn't, he knows exactly what Breslow likes because Breslow has been speaking in his ear the whole time.
Yeah.
The last year and a half. So,
and like the contention window, right? Like Washington's, call it 2 years away, and Boston's now. So he's a 20-year-old pitcher, and Bennett is what, 25. You know, we should probably get a first name on this man. Then Jake Bennett is traded for. Yeah, so he's 25, 6'6", 234, and that's just
he's
like we want to harness this guy. We think we can add a couple miles to his velocity. We can get a third pitch. He's a left-hander. Like, you see how many left-handers Boston has in their rotation between. They're going to add Tolley and Early, and they just signed Suarez, and you got Crochet at the top. Like, they could easily have an all-lefty rotation pretty soon. I mean, he has a type. And, I think, like we're both saying here, like Toboni says, that's fine. I'll take this guy with the upside, and we've got 2 years to figure it out.
It's the perfect way, especially just to bring it back to Dynasty. This is how you should make trades. If you're that team that's contending in a year or two, 3 years, take those swings. Like, have this middle of the road prospect that might help you this season for someone that could win you something in 2 seasons. Or there's also a world where Perales is just out of the league in 2 years because he blows out his elbow again. Like, it's just, I think it's the perfect trade that really kind of, when art mimics fantasy baseball, or when real baseball mimics fantasy baseball. This is what you do.
It's a challenge trade. One prospect for one prospect. You don't see it very often.
Yeah.
All right, let's jump on to the next guy here for Nick, and it's going to round out the guys here. I actually just realized, we'll get into it real quick, but Harry Ford, I think we talked about, of the guys we talked about, I think maybe 4 of them were traded in the last offseason. 3 of them.
Look at us.
So there's something to think about. You know.
And this is also another one that it was a weird MLB trade because Harry Ford has kind of been a buzzy name around dynasty circles for the last 3-4 seasons. Drafted by Seattle, was kind of that catcher that had some speed, had good power, and he was always good. He never had those like real down times. Crazy OBP. Last year he was over 400 OBP, 16 homers. One thing that was a little odd to me, he only had 7 stolen bases last year, but 2 years ago he had 35. So it was a very odd jump. Not jump, fall, I guess. So I'm interested if the Nationals bring that back with him. Well, something else I want to talk about is the trade itself. It was Harry Ford, who is a consensus top 100 prospect pretty much everywhere, whether it's Dynasty, whether it's MLB Pipeline, top catching prospect, was traded for reliever Jose Ferrara, who is who is also like fine, but it was just an odd one for me. So much so that I targeted Jose Ferrara in a few leagues just because I was like, well, they must know what they're talking about.
Saves holds league. You got to think he's at least going to be throwing high leverage if you're trading your one of your best prospects and a catcher for him.
Yeah, so this is kind of this is a twofer. I'm buying Harry Ford because I think he's a good player, but I'm also buying Jose Ferreira just because why did they do this trade if he's not going to be somehow important?
Yeah, I mean, sorry, go ahead, Jason.
No, go ahead, Bob.
I just think sometimes people overthink things with relievers, and I don't have an example off the top of my head, but this has happened before where you say, wow, like that's a lot for this guy who's going to be throwing in the 8th inning. Tanner Scott's a great example, yes. And there's another one that I feel like involved Toronto a couple of years ago, and I can't remember who it was. And I don't know. I think that there's so much volatility with relievers, and not just from year to year, where you go out and you sign a pitcher who had a down year, and then they have a great year after that, and vice versa. Guy goes, not as much anymore with the designated hitter, but I remember like relievers would leave the AL and they would go to the NL where you could face the pitcher, and all of a sudden they'd have a run better of an ERA in the NL, and you're like, how did that happen? This guy was a bum in the AL. I think there's just so much volatility with relievers that if you're trading a good prospect for someone that doesn't have, 4 or 5 years of control, might only have a couple left, I don't think that's a good practice, and it happens more than it should. I just always want to call him Henry Ford.
Yeah.
I always just like default to that. But no, I agree. I mean, I think that when you're competing with, what is it, Ruiz that he'd be competing with there?
Yeah. Yep.
I don't know. I mean, if he looks good in the spring, he could be in a timeshare or more. So.
Yeah, just pile on about the weirdness of the trade. I mean, you're Seattle. You draft this guy in the first round. You develop him along the way. He finally gets to the level where he makes his debut and he's ready to make a contribution to your major league level team. Obviously, Cal Raleigh kind of holds him back, but I'm sure they could find him a spot for his bat at some point. And then you just trade him off for a reliever, which I thought was it's one thing to trade him. Maybe when he's like 18, 19 years old still, and I don't know, so maybe they saw something they didn't like throughout the development of, or maybe it was just the explosion of Cal Raleigh in 2025, where they were like, we don't need a Harry Ford, in the future. I don't know. This is weird. I thought that the timing of the trade as well for just a middle of the pack, 0.1 WAR reliever, 0.5 career WAR reliever. So, but again, we could be talking about Ferrer next season as Seattle's closer. So what do we know? You know what I mean? Like they might have bigger plans and brighter plans for him going forward. Well, that's going to talk about, wrap up our AL NL East Dynasty breakout talk. But I feel like we'd be doing our listeners a disservice if we didn't get down to some of Bob's redraft talk.
Do myself a disservice. I need to get my pen out.
I feel like we take a little bit of time here and see if Bob can run through some of his redraft targets. Not to give away too many secrets, but maybe some of the ownerships you got going here forward so far. I know it's not quite. I know you've been in a lot of drafts, but it's not full on draft season yet. But I'm sure you got enough to kind of go off of some ownership levels here. But you got.
Yeah.
How many drafts have you had, Bob? Be honest.
Do gladiators count?
Every single draft that you have had.
Yeah. See, I don't count gladiators because they're like cheap drafts that are before December, and it's really just so that
2026 since the new year.
9.
Is this like where I need to like multiply by 3 type thing?
No,
okay.
It's 9.
Okay.
But I mean, it's not, February isn't over yet.
All right.
And most of the leagues that I care about are happening in March, and you're a part of a couple of those. So yeah, I mean, without giving away too much, the guys that I'm absolutely targeting my big money drafts, I might not throw on here, but like I mentioned earlier, like Robby Snelling was on there. And I think that there's other ones that I'll kind of say this. There are a lot of players who have undefined roles right now, or have had things that happened in the last couple of months. Or if you look at roster resource and they're on the bench or they're not in the starting rotation, that is where I think you can find the biggest edge right now. So if you talked about Boston, just because that's the easiest thing to do, you see Connolly early, is not on there, and Peyton Tolley is not on there. If you're in a draft and hold type of league, you don't care about necessarily April and May. You want to have 9 pitchers that you can fill out in your roster at that time. But one, there easily could be an injury that could happen. You've got the WBC coming up. You've got a team that is sending like all of their starters to different countries or to represent different countries. Something could happen over there. Connolly Early and Peyton Tolley are not on there. And I think that has caused their ADP to fall, and some other ones, just to not, go specifically about Boston all the time. I mean, Matt Shaw, Jason, I don't know how you feel about Shaw, but like I've been taking him past pick 300 in some of these leagues because he's listed on the bench on Roster Resource. Mm-hmm. I think someone that got as many at-bats as he did a year ago, that can hit for power, can steal bases, obviously, and could even like get some shot in the outfield. I know that's been like a rumor a little bit. You could get some additional eligibility out of him. I've taken some Matt Shaw, and another one is Isaac Paredes for Houston. And, he right now is listed on the bench. And I find it impossible, considering that was a pretty significant trade that they made for Paredes, that he's not going to get 500 plate appearances this season. I'd be surprised if he's not part of their starting lineup or playing 80% of the time in April. They have Jose Altuve at second base. They're saying that, Altuve is going to be there. I could see him going to the outfield. Their outfield is Loper Fido, Jake Myers, and Zach Cole. So if those 3 guys are listed in the outfield on Roster Resource and Isaac Paredes is on the bench, like, doesn't there have to be some sort of change made to get your 9 best players out on the field? So I think there's a lot of that. Like, if you go through Roster Resource and you just draft off the fact that, this guy's on the bench, or they think that he's not going to be in the rotation, that you can kind of find an edge there. Jason Dominguez is another example. If you believe in Jason Dominguez and, you think that the skills are there and that he deserves to play, but then you look at Roster Resource, he's not just, not on the opening day lineup. He's not on the bench, and he's projected for AAA. So I'd put that one maybe not quite as high as the other ones I mentioned. Like Paredes, I don't see any way that he's just not playing. I do see a way that Dominguez doesn't play, but think of the names that are ahead of Dominguez in New York. Like, are you telling me that Giancarlo Stanton and Jazz, they already have the injury with Volpe, Trent Grisham, Aaron Judge, Cody Bellinger. Like, none of those guys are going to get hurt. Yeah. We've got 5 weeks left in the preseason. One of those guys get hurt. Not only is Dominguez on the team, he's probably in the starting lineup because they can get him at bats up there. So I just think that like Roster Resource is an awesome place to go to get a feel for these different teams. But if you dig a little bit and you say, he's not even on their list of players making the team, that could change with one injury or, within a month.
Yeah. Do you know what else would solve that Isaac Paredes issue?
What's that?
Trading Jarren Duran for him.
Yeah. Yeah, I know.
It's literally the perfect trade.
But I don't think they have the same control, right?
Oh, no. Yes, definitely not.
So Paredes has a club option next year. So he's got 2 years left and Duran's got 3 years left. Like, you'd have to find something to bridge that gap, whether that's a second piece or a third team that you would need to involve, like, which, as you said, usually should just be Tampa Bay because they'll just jump in and find some sort of value for them, right? Yeah. Like, I could see Duran going out and I could see Paredes coming in, but I mean, they made the trade for Durbin. Yeah, I'm guessing they explored that.
Nick, you're not high on Durbin?
They just don't have enough power.
Yeah, it's just.
And
it's
Nick
just
and I ranted a lot.
Just put Durbin at second. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah,
I like someone that watched Durbin destroy the Cubs all last year. I'm a huge Durbin fan. Again, not from a power aspect, right? He's not going to hit home runs, but hell of a ball player.
Yeah,
yeah.
No, I like the player, and like honestly, they've made a lot of trades this offseason and a lot of moves that I like in a vacuum. Wilson Contreras, I like the player. Caleb Durbin, I like. Sonny Gray, just for 1 year, like he's a good top 3 rotation arm, adding Ranger Suarez. But then you look up and down the lineup, and there's some projection systems that don't even have them with a 20 home run player.
I was gonna say 30, but yeah, 20. Maybe.
Yeah, which is, someone will hit 20 home runs, but it's like who? Story has to stay on the field again. Roman Anthony at 21, probably not quite a big power hitter yet. I would say Abreu would have the best chance because they're going to let him face lefties, and he should get enough at bats if he stays healthy. So like that would be one. But after that, I don't know. Like even Wilson Contreras, his career high in home runs is 24, and he's 34 years old. So is he going to top that at that age? It's you kind of have to squint to find more than 1 or 2, and that's been my big gripe, especially with they talked about that being a priority, and I won't go on the rant we've done 5 times on the Red Sea podcast this winter, but they moved Rafael Devers off of his position so that they could sign Alex Bregman, and now they don't have either player, which seems like they grossly mismanaged that situation.
Did you see that picture today?
I did. I was praying it was AI generated, and then realized that it was not. It was Bregman that posted it.
Yeah.
Oh. Do you think Isaac Paredes' pull heavy power is conducive to
that wall?
Yeah. For power, home run.
Yeah, I think it's like the only equivalent in baseball of the Crawford boxes, other than maybe New York.
Yeah, fuck that. Bob, you mentioned the Red Sea podcast. Can you please tell us the rest of the things that you contribute in so that our listeners can find you?
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. I write it over the Monster about the Red Sox once or twice a week, especially during the season. So that'll ramp up a little bit. Myself, Eric Cross, Jake Devereaux, and Keaton DeRocher, the 4 of us host the Red Sea podcast. You can search for that on Apple and Spotify. We've been recording once a week all off season. And you can follow me on Twitter at Bob Osgood 15. I'm not out there tweeting my thoughts all the time, but I put all the articles and the podcasts up there, and happy to not just chat Red Sox, but if anybody wants to has any fantasy baseball questions, you can find me there. As I in a previous life was writing about fantasy baseball for a few years before, and as mentioned, the 9 leagues since New Year's, I'm still playing quite a bit. So especially this time of year, not going to go back to the weather again, but there's not a whole lot else to do other than sit inside and draft in between shoveling shifts. So that's what I do.
Love it, Bob. And like always, we love having you on the show, and
it's a blast.
Yeah, we'll definitely have you back on again. You're our most senior guest, and it's for a reason. So we love having you on, and that's been a great episode.
Yeah, thank you for having me again, guys.
Thanks,
no
Bob.
problem.